It's the KwinnPop podcast. I'm Peter Dawson, and I am joined by...
James Bullock.
How you doing today, James?
Peter, I must say, today, my soulful levels are extreme.
Extreme?
Extreme.
How extreme?
Almost, maybe 1995 to 2005 is extreme.
I think I understand where you're coming from, and I subscribe to your newsletter. You do have a newsletter, right?
Yes, I do.
Excellent.
It tells you how to keep bears away, too.
Oh, nice. Does it involve punching them?
No, it involves holding rocks from little girls.
That'll do.
I had to take a rock from a little girl. Her name might be Lisa, but I'll take that rock.
All right. So, we're here to talk about video games, TV shows, and movies, and I'm sure people are already super confused about what the hell.
I just had so many references in that.
I lost track. Like, I got where a couple were coming from, and then I was like, we're going deep. It's like the Drew Carey Show episode where they had mistakes for April Fool's Day, and you had to spot them all to win a prize. Spot all of James' references, and you will win nothing. All right, so let's start with video games. We were going to talk about Yakuza Kiwami.
Right.
So, quick overview of what the game is, at least in terms of history, before we talk about gameplay and stuff. Yakuza Kiwami is actually a remake of the original Yakuza game from the Yakuza franchise. We're going to say Yakuza a lot in this, and I'm sure I'm sure someone's going to pick apart our choice of pronunciation, but, you know,
Yakuza,
look, neither of us are Japanese.
Yeah.
I don't.
So forgive us. Just forgive us at the beginning already.
Yeah,
we might just call it Kiwami from now on, just after we get past this part.
Yeah. Anyway, so Kiwami is a remake of the original game, which was a PS2 game. But this is from a ground-up remake, so it was fully remade on the Yakuza 0 engine. Which is a
game that came out earlier this year as well.
Yeah, it was delayed a couple years, but it came out. Because one thing to note about the Yakuza games is it usually takes over a year for them to be imported, just due to the fact that there's so much to translate, and there's product placement and stuff that needs to get cleared. It's a whole thing. Like, honestly, product placement can make some projects impossible to import, which is surprising.
Right.
I could go on a tangent on that, but I'm not going to, because we've already gone on way too many tangents.
We've had tangents before already.
Oh, I know we have. I mean, for goodness sakes, Lady Stiltman, but that's a callback to the previous episode.
Yeah.
But in this case, I'm going to try and not go too tangential. But so it's a remake of the original. But it's ground up, and the plot is pretty much intact, but they've added so much. It's pretty impressive.
They added quite a few scenes. They actually tied in things, especially when it comes to mini games from the last game. Actually, not the last game, but the Yakuza 0 game. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing just how much of an effort they did just to try to make it feel like it was worth it as a remake. I mean, everybody lambasts a lot of remake. Well, this is the big thing here is the fact that we are specifically saying it's a remake because it is a remake. It's not a remaster. Yep. It's not just graphics upgraded. They've added stuff to the story. They've added cutscenes. And like I said, they've added the extra mini games from the last game of Zero. So it was a really hefty project that I did not expect them to go that far just to give us Kiwami.
Yeah. No, they really went above and beyond, and the results pretty much speak for themselves. It's easily a contender for one of the best games of the year, in my book, at least. I don't know about yours.
Which is amazing to think that we haven't had 2 Yakuza games this year, and both of them, I will say, yes, are definitely in my top 5.
Yeah, probably. Mine as well. I don't think they're going to be my game of the year, but a certain game that I played, when I realized the feeling that was coming over me as I beat the game, I was like, there's no way this feeling is going to be replicated by any other game I played this year.
Wow.
But Kiwami certainly tried.
Yeah, it really did. Really did. So
to get into some more specifics, just first of all, story-wise, and James, I'm going to give you the joy of explaining some of the mini-games and stuff that are in this game.
Oh, yeah.
But just before we get too in the weeds on that, to quickly give a basic, very brief overview of the story. It follows Kazuma Kiryu, a young Yakuza for the Tojo clan, specifically a family within the Tojo clan. Like, there's so many names, and even just trying to recite them simply over the top of this. Big thing is, the big family he's with is the Tojo clan, and there's a crisis of leadership, which ends up being tied into an event that he was involved in about decade prior, I believe. It's 10 years prior.
Yeah, the game starts off in 95, and then we have this big moment, and then it flash forward 10 years later into 2005, which is incredible because the game pretty much came out around this time in Japan, and then for a Western Shores, it came out in 2006.
Yeah, the original version. And now, now obviously, this is a remake, so it came out more than that. But yeah, one of the neat things about the Yakuza games is they always tried to keep up with the current year, at least when it was released in Japan, and they've done a pretty good job of that.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, so the plot involves around Kiryu trying to solve a mystery related to a very, very, very large sum of missing money. Was it 300 billion yen?
Billion, yeah.
Yeah, which, I mean, even if you do casual calculation difference, is still like $1 billion US dollars, if not more.
It's a lot of money.
It really is a lot of money. So, obviously, whoever finds the money is probably going to be the new leader of the Tojo clan after shenanigans happen there. So it's a whole thing. But, yeah, so Kiryu has to solve that, and at the same time he has to examine what's going on with his old childhood friend and try to find his missing other childhood friend and all this other stuff that's going on. He has detective buddies, he has hostess friends and all this other stuff. And it's just kind of a very, I guess, kind of John Woo-ish without the guns plot, but in like, a Japanese Yakuza game.
Right. It's grounded, but it's absurd.
Yeah, it's hyper-masculine, hyper-emotional. Kiryu's kind of an idiot because he solves all his problems by punching them, although he is very good at punching things.
Yeah. That's one of the key things about Kiryu and pretty much the whole game in general when it comes to gameplay. Violence solves every answer.
Yep. Oh, that guy's beating up a puppy? Beat up the guy beating up the puppy. Oh, these two gangs are gonna go to war? Just beat up one of the gangs. All by yourself. Oh. That is the Kiryu way. And then
someone's holding a discotheque hostage. Hey, we're gonna dance our night away while beating up everybody.
Hell yeah! So yeah, that's kind of the very basic look at the plot. It's a modern crime thriller that has just so much character, so much depth. It's really well written. The only problem is, of course, the cutscenes are really long as a result.
Well, not as long, especially if you're coming off of Zero. The cutscenes feel like a breeze, really.
It's true. They are shorter than Zero's cutscenes were.
Right.
Yeah, the later Yakuza games had even long. They never go to the extreme that is Metal Gear Solid, but they certainly
right. You don't feel like you're about to fall asleep after about 20-25 minutes of just straight cutscenes.
No, the exposition is never that tedious, although there is usually a lot of it. That's the problem. But to get into the gameplay, so it's an action RPG mechanic, so you can level up your character, pick up experience points and whatnot to pump up your character. But it's a real-time combat, punches, kicks, grabs, it's all on the table.
It's a 3D brawler.
Yeah, 3D brawler, but with heavy RPG mechanics.
Right.
And it's a sandbox, so aside from certain story points where they don't want you to roam around, you can wander around town, go into grocery stores, convenience stores, and all this other stuff to get items. Like a lot of your power-up items are food or like conceivable weapons. There's a few ridiculous weapons.
Yeah, some ridiculous stuff, but majority of the weapons, especially in this one, once again, if you compare it to Zero, I understand they kind of like try to keep it close to the source material essentially when it came to some of the weapons, but like a majority of the weapons that you've seen in Zero that were like ridiculous are not in Kiwami, and it actually makes it feel a little more rooted in reality too.
I do miss the giant portable cannons from Yakuza 0. Yeah. I'm just saying. The giant marlin fish that was also a cannon?
Yeah, that's the first thing I thought about was the marlin fish. That was the first thing I thought about was missing. I was like, wasn't that
a DLC weapon or something that you got for free?
Yeah.
That was one of the nice things, is in Japan, the DLC costs money. In North America, we just get it for free with the game.
Exactly.
It just gets unlocked after certain points, I think.
Yeah.
And it's just like some nice little power-ups that don't make, they make the game a little easier, but they're almost also a lot of novelty fun, so they're not.
Right.
But yeah, it's I don't know. It's microtransactions.
I hate to characterize like stereotype, but just wacky Japanese stuff,
Sure. Well, it's good you say that. So, James, I've been trying to avoid building up to this too quickly, but do you want to talk about some of the mini games that are in this?
Oh man, this the sheer. Well, I mean, you think about the mini games and any open world game, you just think about the average stuff. You think about darts or bowling or pool, which are all here in great manner too. Like all the.
Sorry.
What you say?
I was going to make sure we mention this before we go too deep. And like one of the nice things is because it's a Sega game, they can include older Sega games at the video arcades.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure we mentioned that before we go into what the next thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just like you pointed out, I mean, the fact you can play Virtua Fighter while playing Yakuza is crazy to me.
You can play a video game in your video game.
In your video game, how meta is that? But then there are the wacky mini games.
Mm-hmm.
And one in particular is probably the craziest thing I think they've ever conceived for one of these games, because in Zero they had a pretty much a mud wrestling, girl wrestling thing you could bet on.
They were called cat fights.
Yeah, cat
and
fights.
I'm not too proud to admit that when I first heard that, I thought it was going to be some kind of weird kitten on kitten fighting. I somehow didn't clue into what they were actually talking about.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's no worse than the thought of, like, in Sleeping Dogs, they actually have cockfights. So
yep.
I could see like a very tame, turned down version of that in a Yakuza game, just with actual cats that you bet on cats and see who would win. But no, they actually had women very scantily clad. They would do wrestling moves, and you just it was kind of like a rock paper scissors deal, where you would pick. Literally, it was a rock paper scissors deal. You hit one button, and if somebody hit rock and you pick paper, you won that part of the round, and whoever ran out of life, was the winner. I mean, it's the loser. But they took it to a completely different level with this one, because in Zero, it was just like a partial thing for a mini game that was a part of a bigger mini game. This actually has a story behind it, and this time around, where it's a card collecting game. It's still the same base game, but it's based around now kids collecting these cards where they are trying to have bugs battle each other. Come to find out, when you get to this part of the mission and you start this mini game, you find out that no, it is just a reskinned version of the cat fights in the Yakuza 0 game, which means you have little kids playing a card battle rock paper scissors game of women in thong bikinis and nurses outfits and all this kind of stuff, but they have little bug helmets. And for some reason, the innocence of the child is in rare form here, because all these kids see are bugs. Kiryu, being a grown man who has bought many of a shrink-wrapped magazine.
Thank you for reminding me of that little side quest.
Good old-fashioned shrink-wrapped magazine sees them exactly what they are. These are women that are mostly as close to nude as possible, fighting for your amusement. And one of my favorite parts of the whole game was when Kiryu asked himself, where was this game when I was a kid?
Yeah, like you called it reskin. I think it's a little more deep than that, because this time you can customize your characters a bit more.
True.
But you're at its base level, yeah, it's still a reskin. They did a little bit more than that, but my favorite part is after the fight, you just see this horde of insect audience members just like doing basically kind of glomping the arena.
Right. And then the worst part about it, they have little phrases after the fight, even if you win or lose, that like this is the bee's knees, and then like explain why this doesn't make any sense. Like, it's just stuff like that. It's just really ridiculous. But the funny thing about it, I actually like the minigame so much more this time around than I did in Zero. One, because I think it was a lot faster than the Zero version.
Yeah.
And it felt rewarding collecting the cards and seeing what kind of moves I got.
Well, yeah, you could build it up more, and you weren't trapped in the tournament system.
Right. And it just didn't feel like it was so randomly generated in terms of your luck in this time around than it did in Zero.
Exactly. Like, it was a lot better designed, I think, was one of the things. Like, this is the challenge between picking between Zero and Kiwami, because Zero had some stuff that Kiwami doesn't, but some of the systems Zero introduced, and God bless them, like, they were introducing a bunch of new ideas. Some of them just didn't feel as tight in Zero as they did in Kiwami, and vice versa. And one of the examples would be the cat fights becoming the bug battle. Bug battle is definitely better. And then if you look at the, as kind of lame as just buying weapons can be in Yakuza Kiwami, the weapon hunting minigame in Yakuza 0 was really kind of tedious.
Yeah, it really was. It really was. I mean, it was rewarding overall, but it was one of those things. And once again, it kind of depended a lot on luck, where you would like save right when I would hear that. Oh yeah, your weapons come in. I would make a save just in case I didn't get what I was looking for.
Yeah. Save spamming for loot is always kind of going to be obnoxious.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you have anything else you want to add for the game, or
No, I think that's about it because, I mean, gameplay-wise, if you play the Yakuza game, you pretty much know what you're in for, especially if you played Zero. This is pretty much Zero without Majima in terms of gameplay, where you could switch, because in Zero you could play as both Kiryu and pretty much an antagonist of Kiryu that we find out in Kiwami, which is Goro Majima, which actually plays a big role in the Kiwami.
Yeah, I was going to say, because we haven't talked about that. We should probably mention that real quick, yeah, Goro Majima is one of the main characters of the games. He was only ever playable in Zero and one of the spin-off games.
Did Dead Souls?
Yep, Dead Souls. Thank you.
Yeah.
I couldn't think of the name. Yeah, Yakuza Dead Souls. But he's been in pretty much every game. I don't think there's one he hasn't shown up in because
No, he's not missed a single game. But like the first time you could really play him was Dead Souls, and then Zero.
Yeah, like he had a cameo in 2. He wasn't really a big role in 2, but he was in there. And then he had a decent-sized role in 3, and he had a decent-sized role in 4, and he was a major plot character in 5.
Very much so.
But he was kind of major in 4 as well. But so to capitalize on this, the remake of Kiwami takes the popular character and really tries to see if you love him or not. And thankfully, they do it really well.
Yeah, they definitely do.
If the character never worked for you, you were going to hate this game. But if you liked it, and most people seem to, you will love this mechanic. So, Majima thinks Kiryu has gone soft after being in jail for 10 years. So, to toughen him up...
This is just funny to even say. Like, I think you've gone soft after you've been in jail for 10 years.
It happens. So Majima decides to stage elaborate traps and ambushes to make sure Kiryu's in fighting shape.
Mm-hmm.
And these traps start off well enough. It's basically just him walking down the street, and then it morphs into him dressing up as a police officer.
Right.
Then it morphs into him popping out of manholes.
Yeah, hiding under traffic cones.
Yep, hiding under traffic cones. That's another one. And then it morphs into him pretending to be a hostess.
Yeah.
Then it morphs into him pretending to be a stripper. Then it morphs into him hiring an entire B-movie crew to make a zombie apocalypse.
Right.
Like, it just gets more and more nonsensical. They do kind of lampshade, like, after he's done the zombie scenarios. Like, look, I basically cast an entire B-movie crew for this. Like, the makeup alone costs thousands of yen.
Right.
There's just... And no one questions this, because Majima rules his organization through fear and power.
And the best part about it, I love the fact that they emphasize that with a rehash cutscene of what we see in the original game that they redid, of course, with this game where you're first introduced to Majima, and you see like the kind of personality he has, and it just evolves so much even with this little addition of gameplay because you just see how wacky he is as a character. And then there are also down moments for him where during a Majima Everywhere is what it's called, you see these down moments of him where you realize just exactly what kind of person he is beyond the crazy eye patch wearing, baseball bat carrying psychopath that will put a woman to knife point and just to ask her to go out with him. And then when she says no, he just, hey, that's just reality. Go on and do what you got to do.
Look, he's crazy. There's no question. But he's still got scruples.
Right.
What the hell they are? But, yeah, so if you haven't played a Yakuza game before, Yakuza Kiwami isn't actually a bad gateway into it, and it's available on the PlayStation 4. Only the PlayStation 4. It is a Sony exclusive franchise.
Yep.
But it's one we both highly recommend. I mean, the closest thing there is to a bad Yakuza game is probably Dead Souls, and Dead Souls is still fine.
Right.
It's just,
and that's a spin-off. I mean, that's the thing. It's like
it's a non-canon spin-off.
Right. The worst we could say is a spin-off that doesn't even matter into the entire plot.
Yeah. But they decided to try and make a zombie game, and it worked okay. Eh.
I still want the feudalistic samurai version.
Oh yeah. There's a feudal samurai game that we never got. Yeah. Hopefully, it's one of those franchises that, since it takes so long, some games just flat out don't get translated.
True. We've still got 6 coming, so there you go.
Yeah, Yakuza 6 will be coming out in February. We'll probably talk about that once that comes out. But let's move on to television.
All right.
I say television. Obviously, we're talking, in this case, not about television exactly, but rather television-esque with Netflix. In particular, a popular series that just came back for a second season called Stranger Things. Specifically, they actually called this season Stranger Things 2 with a big giant 2 in the title sequence, which I
they really did they did the it thing with that one.
Yeah, it worked pretty well.
I liked it.
Yeah, well, the intro's already awesome. Just adding that 2 to it. Yeah,
it just made it so much more just definitive. Like you just knew something haunting was coming. Which is weird.
Well, yeah, they didn't just do it with typical CG too. They had like a very specific effect process that kind of replicated the original, which is why how they would do it in the 80s, which is why it stands out so much, because we're now used to just generic CGI, and instead we got this style. But Stranger Things, for people unfamiliar, we are going to talk about season 2 in depth, but just as a quick primer on the off chance you've never seen it, Stranger Things is essentially every 80s like sort of Stephen King, Goonies type story you can imagine.
That's a great way of putting it.
Because it's very Stephen King.
Right.
Especially, like, it's, what freaking state are they in? Idaho?
Wow. Let me make sure, because I know it's Hawkins.
Yeah. Is it Indiana?
Yeah, Indiana. There you go.
Yeah.
Right.
I said Idaho. I knew it was one of the I's. Yeah. In the small town of Hawkins, Indiana, everybody lives a nice, peaceful life, and local kids hang out together and play D&D together, which is immediately one of the reasons I love it, because they play around with D&D references a lot.
Yeah, and it starts off with that. That's the thing.
Yeah, it really opens with them playing Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah,
and the one thing I loved about it too, and just to segue off that point, is the fact that they don't feel like it's nerdalized to a certain extent. Like, it's just one of those things like kids have fun. Outside like one character during the series who's a very modern character, it makes it feel like, hey, this is a cool thing to do, and nobody feels wrong about doing it. It doesn't feel like you have to be a closet D&D fan.
Yep. No, it's pretty stolid and still super accessible. It's great. Mm-hmm. But yeah, this group of kids, and they end up, it turns out the town has a secret government lab not too far away, where all kinds of manner of weird scientific nonsense are happening. So you get the escaped, mysterious psychic or supernatural monster type stuff coming on from the lab. Which is,
I mean, it's not like some just fiction. It's not like some just random lab like Mephisto's lab off of South Park. It's literally the Department of Energy.
Yeah, I know.
It's like legitimately the government.
Yeah, it's also a little ET in that respect.
Yeah.
Like I said, like it's very much Spielberg and with some ET influence. It's also very Goonies, and then I guess Monster Squad 2 to a degree. But I mean, most people go for Goonies. Monster Squad's fine. I prefer Goonies. What can I say? And then, of course, plenty of Stephen King, which is like the nature of the creature and everything like that. Spoiler: there's a creature.
Yeah, it's a creature lurking. I'm not going to explain to you what it is, but it's lurking.
Well, we're going to have to explain it soon because we're going to talk about season 2.
Well, I think we'll get around it. I mean, it's a little bit. The main thing,
That's true.
There's something that's even more profound than I think what we've seen so far in the quote unquote flesh.
Yeah. So season 2 of Stranger Things, I really liked it. You, James?
I did. I really did. Yeah. It was one of those series where I think coming off of season 1, I wondered how much would it feel redundant. Yeah, I know we had like this big cliffhanger at the end of 1. But it made me wonder, like, how much more you could go with this and this idea. And somehow they really made it even more bewildering than I expected it to be coming off of season 1, and even added some emotional character depth to one major character that I didn't necessarily see happening.
Well, here's the thing. Like, Season 2, Stranger Things 2, it first of all, it introduces a bunch of new characters, and for the most part, they work quite well.
Yeah.
Like, even the characters that kind of suck are still amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll get more into that in a moment, I'm sure.
Billy, you suck, Billy.
Yep. That's not his name, and I'll tell you what his name is in a moment.
Yeah.
I think I told it to you once already when we weren't recording.
Yeah.
But, yeah. No, but not only that, but they really took their time, and the slow burn really worked, especially because of how invested we are in the characters.
Right. Coming off of season 1, they really let it settle of what was going on. Well, pretty much the aftermath, because this, I believe, what is almost a little bit over a year or so after the first season is when the second season begins. And you just see the character evolution that we didn't necessarily see, but then they gave you a little slow burn and let everybody kind of like settle into their roles. And some of those characters, especially newer ones that were introduced into roles that we didn't know were really made specifically for these people, that just really worked.
Well, I know, like, a character that I just kind of hated from the first season is now one of my favorite characters. You can probably
Steve?
guess which. Yeah.
Steve?
Yeah. I guess we should start, like, essentially the first episode in particular, there's a few elements here and there of, like, mysteries and stuff going on, but it's pretty slow burn. It isn't until the end of the first episode that we finally get a big reveal, and then we start to get answers. But even then, it's probably until about episode 4 when things really start to pick up.
Yeah, definitely. It's when Dustin really has his discovery. When Dustin has his discovery, to me, that's when everything kind of picks up. Which, like you said, I believe is episode 4.
Episode 3 or 4, yeah.
In episode 3 into episode 4, that's right.
Yeah. Despite the slow burn, which, I mean, slow burns can be obnoxious sometimes.
Yeah.
Oh, hello, Iron Fist.
Especially when you have a season that's only 9 episodes long.
Yeah. But it really works in this case because, like, the characters are so engaging if you're invested in them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're not invested, this will probably suck for you. But if you're not invested and you're watching a second season, what the hell are you doing?
I really don't know how you couldn't be invested in the characters, honestly, because everybody does a great job at their role.
Yeah.
And like you said, even the ones that you don't necessarily care for, especially initially, especially like you were saying with Steve, who was a minor character pretty much in the beginning of the first season and really becomes a major character by the end of the second season.
Mm-hmm.
They have these moments where you could just, either you want to punch them in the face or you want to hug them, and then everything kind of flips, which makes a lot of sense when you look at the entire premise of the story.
Yeah, I felt so bad for Steve in season 2. And I completely forgot what a tool he was in the first one.
Exactly. Like, I mean, this is a guy, for people that didn't see season 1, I'm not going to give too many spoilers, but I'm going to just give you an example of the type of guy he is. This is the guy that breaks a dude's camera after something tragic has happened to his brother because he feels like it's insulted his manhood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, the manhood thing still kind of comes up a bit in this season, but, like, even that's kind of downplayed, and it's just a weird subplot that I get. Okay, it's hard because I don't want to get too spoilery.
Right.
It's a slow burn plot that soon culminates in a pretty interesting story, and I want to talk about some of the new characters that are introduced because that's probably going to be the easiest thing.
Yeah, definitely. Because
we can look at their value a bit. So let's start with the one that we both probably want to talk about. Which, well, okay, that's not true. We want to talk about probably most of them, but let's talk about the new kid and her brother.
Yeah.
Or the new kid and his sister, however you want to put it. So a new family comes to town, and the two people that matter the most in the family, because we see them the most, are Max, who's a gamer girl, and so it's like the girl that...
And Skater. Don't forget about the Skater, because that's what makes her so cool.
Yeah, she also... Yeah, she has a skateboard, and she's very good at video games. I think it's Dig Dug that she has the high score.
Yeah, Dig Dug. She's a master of Dig Dug.
Yeah, that's like early in episode 1 that's revealed, so we don't need.
Right.
That's a pretty mild spoiler, but yeah, her brother Billy played. Who, by the way, is the guy who played the Red Power Ranger in the 2017 Power Rangers movie.
Right.
I just want to point that out because, like, in that one he was amazing as like Red Ranger, who at one point like slaps a bully, and then the bully's like, "Did you just slap me?" Like, yeah, I did. Weird, isn't it? Which is one of the most amazing parts of that movie. And now in this, he's
walking around turning off showers in the men's locker room.
He's the 80s punching you in the face forever. he's got the long Lost Boys hair. He's wearing denim on denim. He's smoking. He's kind of bleached blonde, and it looks like he should have a mustache, but he doesn't.
He's got a rat mustache. Like, it's really, really bad.
And like when I say Lost Boys hair, it's like a weird sexy mullet.
Yeah, it's a gelled mullet. It really is.
And of course, because he just came off Power Rangers, he's cut more than, let's say, a spiral cut ham. I didn't know where I was going with that simile, but I think I did okay, all things considered. And he's just like this insane. He's gotta secretly be gay, right? That's where that's going.
Maybe. Like, the only thing that kind of gave me the hint was, like I said, the shower scene when he was talking to Steve. Like,
it was very homoerotic.
Yeah, it really was. Like, this was Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2 kind of levels. Like, it was really.
And he's a womanizer, but all he ever does is complain about the women. He gets raped by his father. It's just, I don't know, something about that. He's got to have some weird bent-up sex. Like, as it stands, he's just kind of a psychopath.
Right. Well, another thing, like, is he racist or is he in love with a black guy? Like, that's my only question.
Could be.
Like, I'm really thinking about
or maybe his dad's racist and kind of, because I don't want to say you kind of inherit racism in some cases,
Oh yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where he's like, just to find like your father's acceptance. That's where you start adapting these attitudes and thought processes. So yeah, there's a good possibility, especially after we see the one scene featuring his father, which was wow.
That was brutal to watch.
that was rough to watch. That was a hard watch. It really was.
But at least it was better than some other scenes of father-child abuse that recently depicted in the media, where they just go completely over the top. I'm like, that is like the one they showed is like, okay, that's over the top, but for one scene.
Yeah, like that's the thing. It was so realistic and believable that it made it that much more disturbing.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing. It probably was more realistic than some other ones where it's like, look, child abuse in this story, but it's like, there's no way this would be like that 24/7.
Right.
In this case, you can kind of see where the escalation came from. I don't know. It was chilling.
Yeah, it really was. That was definitely a part to watch.
And just go back to Max for a second. It's like, I really felt bad for a character because basically the entire season is, hey guys, why don't you tell me what's going on? We're not going to tell you what's going on.
Yeah, you don't belong. Can't tell you.
That was the sound of them running away.
Yeah.
But it's annoying too because they also want to hang out with her because of course two of the boys have a crush on her, Dustin and
Lucas.
Thank you. I suddenly blanked on his name. I feel bad.
You feel bad as Max when with Mike when he was trying to figure out like who's going to be the fourth Ghostbuster.
Oh my god, that scene was amazing. No one wants to be Winston. That awkward moment when you want your black friend to be the black character.
And I love the fact that Lucas calls him out on it. And he's like, no, I can't say it, but yeah.
Look, just because a person isn't dropping horrible racist language doesn't mean they might still have just a little bit,
right.
maybe not proper racism, but
it's there. It's always there.
Yeah, when you're that aware, sometimes it just happens.
Yeah.
But another character that was introduced, which is easily one of the greatest characters in fiction of all time, Bob.
Oh, Bob. Hey, it's just Bob. Captain Bob.
Yep. Oh, he's easily one of my favorite. Okay, so he's played by the always awesome Sean Astin, who, by the way, was in Goonies.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I forgot about that.
I'm just pointing out that might be one of the reasons he was cast in this.
Right.
Because they cast a few other 80s type people. I mean, season one had Matthew Modine.
Yeah, definitely.
Who's very 80s. If you've seen his movies, a lot of them are very 80s.
It worked so well for him. Like, just so 80s.
Yep. And now in this case, we get Sean Astin as Bob, and Bob is just, of course, he works at a Radio Shack, which they can do because Radio Shacks don't exist anymore.
Right.
Rest in peace. And he's just like this super nice, super square, just like the blandest, lovable buffoon.
Yeah, that was the thing. Like initially, I hated Bob because he was so bland.
Yep.
And so, like, I just knew something was wrong with him. Like, he something is evil about him. It has to be. And you just find out as the show goes on, no, Bob's just a bland, nice guy. He's a really, really nice guy.
He's genuine in his blandness. I just love the scene where it's like, who would you rather be friends with, Kenny Rogers or David Bowie? He's like, well, David Bowie, obviously. I was like, yeah. I was like, some people do like Kenny Rogers. I was like, you guys say Kenny Rogers? I love that guy. And then he just can't stop laughing as he watches Mr. Mom.
Right, like, it's just... Yeah, Bob. He's such a great character they introduced right at the beginning of the season. Like I said, the way they introduced him kind of came in very cold.
Yep.
And I'm just thinking like something is wrong with this guy. No, because you got to think the worst of everybody, especially when Billy comes around. Like, because I believe they introduced Billy before they introduced Bob.
And Billy comes out to rock you like a hurricane.
Right. Yeah, you just see the scumbag, and you just know he's a terrible person.
Yep.
And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, you see Bob, who's supposed to be just a genuinely okay, normal guy. And you just know that something's wrong with him. And come to find out, no, Bob is just Bob. Bob is just a good guy that has been thrust into a situation that no normal person should have been able to handle. But Bob handled it.
No, like, he only really makes one mistake the entire season. And while it's a crucial one, right, you really can't blame him for it.
Yeah. Like, if you were in that situation.
No, I know. Like, given the context and everything he had to work with, you could totally understand where he was coming from.
Exactly.
And it isn't quite horribly wrong, but you really can't blame him for screwing. It's not like it's like one of those situations where a character's like not turning around even though they have every reason to turn around.
Exactly.
It's so not that situation.
Yeah. It's just a horrific moment for Bob.
Yeah. So we've been going on this for a while, but we might as well touch on a couple more of the new characters just so we're not talking vaguely the whole time.
Right.
So we have something to talk about with this because we don't want to spoil, but we do want to talk about the show. So we got, I can't remember this character's name, but the Paul Reiser character.
Yeah. Sam. I know he was the doctor. I know that. I believe it was Sam.
Yeah. He's basically the head of the lab now.
Right.
He may not be like the guy, but I'm pretty sure he's more or less the guy, and he's like the...
Yeah, I believe he's like the guy now, since the original kind of... Either you could consider him a death or a disappearance.
They never showed him dying explicitly.
That's what I'm saying.
But
that's what I always say.
He certainly looked like he was about to die.
Yeah. But we had that moment at the very end of season 1 anyway, where we found out that what we thought happened didn't really happen too, so...
Yep. I know, that's the thing. But his character, of course, at first, he comes off initially as a nice guy. Mm-hmm. And then you're like, all right, he works for the government, though, and the government is kind of evil. Because they're pushing these weird Department of Energy experiments that are just kind of effing with the town.
Right.
And ends up...
Oh, man, they ruined October. They ruined Halloween with those pumpkins.
Now where are we going to have it? Our pie?
They ruined those pumpkins.
I know, but so it's
but see, to me, like, Sam had that Bob effect. Like, he was initially presented as a very nice guy, and then we find out what he's really doing behind the scenes. Like, that's why I'm thinking about Bob, like I thought I did.
Well, yeah, because he was more what you expected to happen with Bob, because he is definitely kind of a sinister dude, but he's not unreasonable.
Right.
Like, there's a scene later on where all these other people are being, like, cliche movie villains, saying exactly what you would expect them to say, and then you're expecting him to go along with it. He's like, no.
Yeah,
that's the line. Like, hello,
right.
This is the line. We're not crossing this. Again, he's a character with scruples.
Right.
And that goes a long way. And, it really kind of makes him, I don't know about interesting, but more... pleasing character, let's say.
Yeah, more of a real good grief, I can't even say it. Well-rounded character than a lot of our pseudo supervillains of government intrigue.
Yeah, he really works. And then the other character, I don't even know what I want to say her name because that could kind of be a thing, but we get more of an idea of the people that were in this government lab, and this one particular character, she opens the season, so she's there right from the get-go, and you understand why the character from season 1 is called 11.
Right.
Like,
it really ties into Eleven's backstory. For
Yeah.
those who don't know, we were alluded to the psychic girl in season 1.
Mm-hmm.
Her name's 11. We find out she becomes a part of the key core kid group. And in season 2, we find out that she wasn't alone.
Nope.
She was not alone.
We do learn more about the psychic children that were being experimented on by the Department of Energy and the weird nonsense that's going on. And yeah, it just really kind of becomes a whole thing. And the one problem is the episode that really focuses on this character comes right in the middle of the arc.
Right.
And even if you understand what they're going for, even if you watch the episode and you like it can be a bit jarring.
Yeah, it really halts everything.
Because it's essentially, the episode is basically one giant meanwhile.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, I'm fine enough with the meanwhile, because, like I said, I actually was really interested in seeing where this was going, seeing what happens, and I mean, there's just so much stuff going on. But it's like, we kind of left the major story plot on the other, and they do...
And you kind of left wanting to see what happens next, because the way that episode ended before this episode, it was so profound that it just kind of felt like, wow, I really just want to get through this episode as fast as possible so I can get to see what happens next.
Well, it's like, if I had to critique something, like, what I probably would have done is maybe ended the previous episode differently, and then have the reveal that happened at the end of that episode happen in the kind of weird spin-off episode. Like, show more of it then, and rather than have the repeat we have, which reminds us, like, hey, this is the thing you were interested in last episode. By the way, we're totally going to cut back to it now. And instead, like, show it for the first time, and then maybe not end the, like, as profound as that spin-off episode's ending was, maybe not end it that way.
Right.
It's like, I appreciate it. I'm like, oh, it's a nice, happy ending, but, like, we left the characters in a pretty dire situation. Maybe we should actually resolve that.
Yeah. Like, that was pretty much, like, the only disappointing part I had throughout the entire season.
Yeah.
Was just that episode placement and that terms. But one thing I want to talk about too, just real quick, is the fact, like, I talked about this in It, when I talked about the dialogue especially between the kids. Like, Stranger Things to me feels so much like what 80s would have been and what 80s is really in terms of dialogue and conversations, because, like, to me, it was too 2000s, like, just the way that they came across and the personalities. Like, in terms of personalities, which, like I said, it's hard for me to believe you cannot get into a single character in this show, because all the personalities feel so, 80s, and 2 feel natural. Even psychic people. But
it's almost like, I don't know what to say, it's like they actually pulled kids out of the past.
Right. It just feels like that.
Travel.
Yeah, they might be telling us something we don't really know is actually happening. These kids were born in the mid 70s and grew up, and now they've been frozen, and now they decide, hey, it's far enough now, we can start doing 80s shows. Let's unfreeze these kids so they can learn how to act.
It's like, yeah, they're secretly psychic.
Yeah.
Wait, psychic? Yeah, you've been saying it wrong the whole time. Dun dun dun. Tilt camera, end episode.
That's what the government is really working on, people. That's what our tax dollars are funding.
Damn psychics. I'm sorry, that's an old joke. I don't want to explain the reference. It's kind of obscure. Anyway, I think that's going to wrap it up for Stranger Things 2. Definitely go see it. Go see it. Watch it. It's on Netflix right now. It's great. We don't know how long it's going to take to do another season.
Yeah. Make sure you watch season 1, though, if you haven't. Yeah, it's a necessity.
It really would be foolish. It's like, I mean, they actually numbered it Stranger Things 2, and it fits, and I don't think there's a character I really hated after the end. Like, the closest was Billy, and even then...
But you're supposed to. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, that's a good thing. Like, every character you're supposed to hate, they made it because that. They want you to hate that person. It's not the character is so terrible that I'd never want to see him on my screen again. The character is so terrible that if somebody takes a baseball bat with nails in it to his head, I would not be upset because they did it so well.
I just want to really know what his deal is. Just because of the abuse? Or, like, I don't know. It's like, I'm fascinated, but at the same time,
why do they move? Like, all these things, there's a lot of questions that hopefully they'll answer for the family.
I know.
For that family in the 3rd season.
It's the arc that never got going, but next season maybe.
Yeah.
So at least we finally got to see Lucas's family.
And it is terrible, terrible sister.
Somebody needs to have a terrible sister, though. I'm glad, I'm glad I finally got a character who had one of those.
Oh, that little brat.
Yep. So moving on to movies, probably keep this a little shorter, but it's fine because it's just one movie. So,
oh man, I just want to say Hulk Dick that time when he said keep it a little shorter.
So we're going to be talking about Thor Ragnarok. And yeah, so the latest Marvel Cinematic Universe movie came out. It quickly became a hit. I mean, it made like $400 million in like 5 days or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it did pretty well for itself. I don't know where it's going to ultimately place this year in terms of highest grossing movies. I'm sure it'll get at least to a Wolf Warrior 2.
Yeah. I believe it's going to rank pretty high, but
yeah, it's at about $660 million right now, which is fine.
Yeah, very well.
Yeah,
especially this time of the year.
Oh yeah, well, any Marvel movie that makes at least $500 million is usually fine.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, it's just gravy. I mean, this is not to go too tangential, but I think that's one of the problems that Warner Brothers always had with DC is they kept hoping their movies would make it like at least $800 million. It's like, just try to make $500 million, if that, like, and because that's more than double the initial budget, which is the stated budget. The real budget's usually a little bit higher, but I mean, just try to double your budget at least, and then stop. I don't know.
And be happy.
Studios are weird.
Yeah,
it's complicated. Oh no, it's already officially the 10th highest grossing film of 2017.
All right, well there you go.
Yeah, and it could go higher. Yeah. So
I don't see it not going higher. Honestly,
it'll probably hit at least 700 mil, if not 800. So the Thor. I don't want to get too deep into the plot of the Thor, but Thor follows the actual, Norse god Thor. Although instead of being like a god per se, he's an alien. It still identifies as a god.
Right.
The Thor lore has always been kind of weird like that.
Yeah.
Because they're aliens and it's technically science, but it's magic-like. I don't know.
They have kingdoms and they're treated like mystical beings, but like you said, they're
this is
essentially aliens that are making treaties with other alien planets, and so.
I don't know. It's
it's a little out there. But
as much as I love the mythology and stuff, I kind of would like some concrete stuff in there.
Yeah, I think one of those things where it's just a little bit too much. Like keeping it simple would have helped a lot.
Yep. But regardless of all that, so the Thor Ragnarok, as you might suspect, revolves around Thor trying to prevent the Ragnarok, which is essentially the Norse mythology end of the world type scenario.
Right. For his home planet.
Yep. Yeah, in this case, his home planet of Asgard. So he wants to stop that. So since Avengers Infinity War, that comes out next year. Since Avengers Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
Thor has been essentially running around the galaxy trying to find the Infinity Stones, and ends up running across the demon Surtur. By the way, demons are a thing. Just there they are. But you know what?
Hey, I mean, the thing about if we have gods, we have to have demons, and even if they're alien gods, they're still.
I'm not mad because Surtur. I can't pronounce it, even though I see that.
Surtur. Just say Surtur.
Yeah, Surtur is voiced by one of my favorite actors ever, Clancy Brown, who is like the perfect voice for a demon, and I would just want to point out is also the voice of Mr. Krabs from SpongeBob.
Yeah, it just did so well, so good.
He's got this one voice that's just it's one of my favorite villain voices. He could be. I'm fine with him being a good guy or like a tough drill sergeant, but he's born to play villains.
Yeah,
it's a shame. Not for him. He still gets work.
Yeah, he's still getting paid. He's still getting paid here.
Anyway, so Thor ends up running across Surtur and steals his crown, thinking he stopped Ragnarok. But then
following a very funny bit too, no less.
Oh yeah, that's one of the things we should mention right away. This movie's hilarious.
Yeah, I did not expect to laugh as much as I did.
Yeah, because
I really did.
Well, the director, one of the main things he's done is comedies with like the Flight of the Conchords guys.
Right.
Specifically, he did What We Do in the Shadows, which is like a vampire mockumentary comedy, which is just amazing. And I haven't actually seen. He did another one, like Hunt for the Wilder People or something like that.
Right. Yeah, but I've not seen that either.
Yeah, I haven't seen that yet either. But like, might actually coincidentally see it this weekend or something. just settle down and watch it. And then apparently they might even be doing another one called Werewolves.
Mm.
But since they have the Kiwi accent, it's like werewolves? No, werewolves. Werewolves? I've heard that's what they might be doing, and I kind of want that to be true, just because I love that joke. It's a weird phonetic joke. But back on subject, yeah. So it's a Thor comedy. He encounters a fire demon. Then he goes to find out, oh, my brother actually replaced my dad in the last movie.
Yeah, we found that out at the end of the last movie that Loki has now been posing as Odin.
Yep.
And once again, the comedy ensues because when Thor gets back home, he finds that there's a big play going on in honor of Loki's death.
Yep. Featuring probably the most surprising cameos yet. Did you catch who was playing Thor in that play?
Yeah, and freaking Loki, I was literally trying to make sure my eyes weren't playing tricks on me when I was like, is that Matt Damon?
Matt Damon plays fake Loki.
Is that Matt Damon?
Matt Damon shows up. Luke Hemsworth, Chris Hemsworth's real brother, plays Thor. And then they needed an older British actor to play Odin, and they ended up going with Sam Neill.
Yeah.
I'm all right with that. So from that point on, they have to quickly find Odin, and once they resolve that, which involves a cameo from Doctor Strange, which was also pretty great.
That flashing sequence of them moving through different areas was fantastic.
Well, it's just the fact that they took a credit sequence from a movie and actually put it into the next movie.
Right.
Because more often than not, we've had these end credits or mid credits teasers, and then they don't actually really matter as much as we thought.
Exactly.
Like, this one was legit a scene, so that was great. But yeah, after all that, they find Odin, and then one of the bigger missteps of the film for me, I don't know if you're going to agree with me on this, Odin is just hanging out dressed like an old man who would be feeding the birds at a park.
Yeah, he's just chilling like he's been retired in South Florida. Like
I really think the clothes he was wearing in the scene hurt the scene.
Yeah, especially later on in the movie, like
when they cut back to him in that freaking old Florida man ensemble.
I mean, you're expecting to see this royal, majestic figure when you have this moment, and he's just chilling.
It looks like he's ready to go buy some Werther's Originals and some, let's say, weak tomato soup.
His grandson Billy just is about to have a birthday. He's going to give him a pen and box set. Like, that was it.
No, it's going to give him hoop and stick. Hoop and stick, James. Hoop and stick. That broke you a little, huh?
That did. That really did. I'm not going to lie. That did.
But yeah, and then he's like, by the way, I'm going to die. Die. Oh, yeah, you have a sister.
Yeah.
And yeah,
like vanished, and her backstory doesn't make much sense, but we're gonna go with it.
This is the problem. The movie starts going crazy for a bit before it settles down.
Yeah.
Basically, long story short, with Odin's death, so sorry to spoil that, but like it happens pretty early on, and it's kind of a major plot point.
And you pretty much expected it to happen between the second and third movie by now.
I know. Hey, characters are finally dying in Marvel movies again.
Yeah.
Just something to consider. Thor's probably killed off more characters than any other movie.
You might have. That's true.
We'll get to that. But yeah, so then Hela shows up. Hela being the goddess of death. She's well established in Marvel lore. And the whole idea is like no one's heard of her because Odin likes to cover up his problem, because Odin was a very flawed man.
Right.
He loves covering things up. This is very true. We've seen this in previous movies. And it turns out, he's like, by the BT dubs, you guys have a sister. She's the goddess of death. She is swords. Like, not she shoots swords. She just waves her arms and somebody's dead because of a sword.
They just appear.
She just is swords. And yeah, she goes, takes over Asgard. It's upset that people don't worship her, even though she's like, hey, I'm the returning conquering hero. It's like, never heard of you, and you just killed a bunch of people. Boo!
At least Loki tried to make it look like he did it for the sake of his people.
Yeah, Hela's is like, bitch, where's my respect?
Yeah.
And ultimately, this results, she also messes with him in the Bifrost, which results in them crashing on a, what was the name? Scar? or Sekar, something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, and so Thor goes on this whole side adventure where he finds the Hulk and ends up like as a gladiator in the imprisonment of the Game Master, the Grandmaster.
Grandmaster.
Jeff Goldblum.
Yes. Another unexpected for me, like, so I'm so far and away removed now, and I don't like to do like a lot of trailers and stuff because they spoil so much now. But like, I did not expect to see like, oh, they're talking about this they're talking about this majestic, impressive Grandmaster that you're going to meet eventually, and I'm expecting almost everything but Jeff Goldblum, and yet it's worked so well.
I don't want to say he's the best character in the movie because there's so many great characters in the movie, but he's easily one of my favorite. Like, take Justin Hammer, played by the always awesome and completely underutilized Sam Rockwell in Iron Man 2, and just magnify that. That's essentially what Jeff Goldblum's character is. Just give him more power and just make him like this really relaxed, snarky. He was true Goldblum.
Yeah. That's the best way of putting it. He was true Goldblum in a superhero movie. Like, it was just,
God,
it was great. It's
the kind of Goldblum performance you want him to always do. Right. Well, assuming you're watching a movie where a Goldblum performance would be appropriate.
Right.
You probably don't want to see that in Schindler's List. I'm just saying. It seems a lot of people are dying. Sorry, that was my off-the-cuff Goldblum impression. It was not very good, but you just gotta quite a bit. So that's pretty much going on, and Thor has to learn to figure out a way to deal with Hela, and which is hard because again she's made of swords, and I think that's probably where we'll leave it. We won't go into how they resolve everything.
Yeah. Just know you'll see one thing that I'll definitely say, just to spoil a little bit. The Hulk is awesome in this movie.
Hulk is great.
Man, I mean, they actually let the Hulk talk.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Hulk's great. The comedy's spot on. They introduced some great new characters. Like, I have two probably main criticisms of the movie. Well, three, because we already ranted about Odin's clothing.
Yeah. We already talked about Hela being terrible. Not a terrible character, because she's actually a very entertaining character when she's on screen. Just the way she came about. Yeah. In the story, I do not like whatsoever. But
there's some parts of the plot are really rushed or introduced kind of abruptly.
Yeah, which is amazing when I think about it, because it's like a 2-hour movie, and I have to say, it went by a lot faster than it felt like it did. But then it felt like a lot of stuff was rushed unnecessarily, especially with that amount of time that they had.
They could have probably done a full 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
This is a movie that deserved it, not like Transformers 5.
Right.
This is one that absolutely. Really... Yeah. There's some complaints about movies being too long. This is one that could have been longer.
Yeah, they really could have given it at least another 20 to 30 minutes.
They probably could have. Well, because one of the things was Odin's death was very abrupt, and then would have been nice to milk that a bit more. And speaking of deaths that they could have milked more. Hey, Warriors 3.
Wow.
Yeah. So, just to remind people, in the first Thor movie, we were introduced to his battle bros, which consisted of Lady Sif, who's not in the movie because Jamie Alexander, who plays the character, was not available. So they just they didn't even mention her. Which I thought they
didn't at all. That was a weird thing.
Now, the explanation that the studio execs kind of have for that is they're saying she was probably exiled when Heimdall was. By the way, Heimdall gets exiled early on because when Loki's still evil Odin.
Right.
Which is why Heimdall's... but the Warriors 3, his other battle bros, played by, in this one at least, Ray Stevenson, Zachary Levi, and Tadanobu Asano.
Mm-hmm.
Ray Stevenson's the one I keep forgetting. I'm like, which
okay.
The Rome guy, because he was in... Right. But I can never... Because it's kind of a generic name, honestly. So those three, and two of them die very abruptly.
Yeah, I did not expect that.
That was honestly one of the other big missteps, because we had some investment in these characters.
Mm-hmm.
Thor did too, and Thor never even asked about them.
That's the worst part, for me, when you come to the closing moments. And of course, I'm not going to spoil anything because everybody knows it's a Marvel film. We're going to have a big final battle. I'm not going to explain the details of the final battle, but one of the key things is the fact that his buddies are not around, and no one questions what happened.
Like, yeah, that's one of the other big offenses of the movie is like because these characters die off pretty early on because, well, Hela's the goddess of death. She needs to kill people. And again, do appreciate Marvel killing off characters.
Right, I'm cool with that, but
because there's quite a few characters that really should have died by now, or at least been written out and stayed written out.
Right.
Just saying. But yeah, in this case, no. He's the one Asano's character. I believe he's Hogan. Because I do admit.
Yeah, he's Hogan. Yeah, he's Hogan.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Stevenson's Volstagg, and then Levi's Vandral.
Vandral, right?
Yeah. Yeah, those three. Yeah. Hogan's the one who gets the only kind of satisfying death because he's part of the fight scene.
Right, and I'm not gonna even lie. Going there to the theaters, that moment, that was one of the biggest reactions when his death happened.
Yeah. And now the last criticism I have, I don't know if you're gonna agree with me on this or not.
Okay.
Okay. Well, again, it's one of the funniest Marvel movies, easy, and the humor works. Right. Mostly. There's a couple of specific scenes I really don't like where the humor was.
Okay.
One of them is at the end when something very dramatic and very shocking has happened.
Okay.
And they do a joke while it's happening.
Yeah, I can.
And you know what it reminded me of?
What?
Walking from Final Fantasy X, when a horrible thing is happening to a bunch of people, and he's like, "Hey, it's just happy fireworks!" Ah!
Yeah.
which was the defining moment where I decided for sure I hated Waka from Final Fantasy X, which may not mean much to necessarily all the listeners, but James, I know you'll appreciate what I'm talking about there.
I definitely understand where you're coming from.
Yeah. It felt like that to me, and it almost made me hate one of my favorite characters. Which was most of them, because all the characters in this movie were great. And then the other one was it's just kind of the culmination, because more than once they have a joke where a character's about to do something big and dramatic, and then it doesn't happen because, it's funny to have it build up and all of a sudden anticlimax before having the thing you want to happen. Mm-hmm. Like, they still give it to you, but they disappoint you for a second in a humorous way. Right. And they probably played that card too many times.
Yeah, I'll agree on that one.
Like, it was still funny. I was still laughed at the time. But in retrospect, it may have taken some of the drama out of the film. And don't be wrong, it's still a silly movie where Thor's power-up song is the Immigrant Song.
Yeah, from Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
Oh, man, the people popped hard when that came on, too.
Yeah.
No joke. People really popped hard in the theater when that came on, so...
Yeah. So we're starting to run a little long, but I've mostly been talking for this segment, so do you want to throw in any other thoughts on Thor?
No, just shout out to Tessa Thompson,
Yeah, we haven't mentioned her yet. We should.
Hey, girl. How you doing, girl?
She was, she's been doing some good stuff. She's been in Westworld. She's been in...
Park lately.
Yeah, she was in Creed. Pretty good in Creed.
But I just love her initial appearance in the movie. It was just hilarious. She comes out of her ship drinking. And
yeah. Okay, that's one of the ones... That's an establishing character moment. You need to know this character is both intimidating and also kind of a wreck.
Right.
So that one works. It's more like
that was a really good. That was a really good presentation and the way to introduce her character. I thought
absolutely.
It was really
and let's not forget Korg, with just he's a big rock man who states he's made of.
Yeah, I'm a big rock man. I made a rock, but you don't have to worry about it. Don't be scared.
And he's just soft-spoken. Apparently, the director explained the voice for Korg is essentially that of his own experience encountering a Polynesian bouncer.
Wow.
I know. So apparently, he encountered a bouncer that sounded like that.
Yeah. It was one part later in the movie. This is not a big spoiler, or it means anything to the movie, but Loki interacts with him, and Loki pretty much tells him, like, I think you're in need of a leader.
Yep.
And he's like, okay, thank you very much.
If there's one thing that's kind of great about this movie, too, is it gives Loki some closure.
Yeah, it really does. It really does.
Yeah. Because he's trying to trick people again, and even Thor's getting wise to his tricks by now. And just, starts messing with them, and... Yeah, it's
He let it. It was a part very early in the movie. We were talking about the play,
yeah.
and Thor just lets him run with it for as long as he wants to until he really just gets okay. We got to get to business now.
Yeah, he's like, do you really want me make me do this? He's like, look, I've seen through your ruse. I clearly have seen through your ruse. Are you really gonna try and milk the ruse? He's like, all right, keep going. All right, and now I'm done with your ruse. Punch. Thunder God, what can you do? Yeah. Oh, and I guess we should mention real quick. Yeah, they did explain why Natalie Portman wasn't in this one very briefly.
Very. I mean, if you weren't paying attention, those are the biggest problems. I think that was probably for me the biggest problems when they had characters that were really important to the last couple of movies, and I know they've done it in so many times in other movies too, but just kind of have a really quick explanation and no emphasis or really no character. What's the word I'm looking for? Just like a fallout, just trying to figure out how these characters will react to certain situations and certain people missing. And yeah, it's like if you're not paying attention, you would probably miss exactly the explanations.
Which, yeah, that can be really obnoxious at times. I mean, I know you just aren't always able to get the people back, but
yeah, can we do better? Okay. For example, as terrible of a movie as it was, I know it was a major character, but what happened to the days of switching cast? Mortal Kombat Annihilation is a terrible movie, but
I was actually thinking that. Oh man,
yeah, it was
James. We've been spending too much time together.
Mortal Kombat Annihilation is an absolute terrible movie, but I respect the fact that they couldn't get Bridget in to replace Sonya, again, so they replaced her. And
Sandra Hess, that's who replaced her.
Yeah, there you go. So, it was terrible, but at least they tried. We could do this still. You don't have to necessarily go through an entire movie without replacing someone and just giving them the name. We'll accept it for the temporary reason that you have to do it.
I just want to point out they did do that in the Marvel Universe. They replaced Terrence Howard with Don Cheadle.
Oh, you're right. Oh, there we go. There you go. Perfect
and they replaced
example.
Edward Norton with Mark Ruffalo. Those two don't look anything alike. I mean, Terrence Howard and Don Cheadle don't really look alike either.
Right.
Except in a certain obvious way, which I don't want to...
okay, Mike.
Right? Even then, it's not really true because they still got a very different complexion despite that.
Still complexion's completely different, but still.
They're both African.
People start getting the people that are getting the cast list ready just start getting them mixed up for some reason. I have no idea how you get these two people mixed up.
Honestly, I'm thinking about it more and more. Yeah, they don't really have anything in common. I already knew it's well, the face shape's entirely different.
It was that person that keeps calling everyone Don Cheadle.
Yeah. I know, it's I can understand people confusing Lawrence Fishburne and Samuel Jackson more than I can understand.
Yeah, that's a very good example, but yeah.
They at least kind of have similar mouths.
Yeah. It's weird. It's weird. Hollywood's weird if you didn't know.
Yeah. Just replace him with this other guy. They look... Oh, wait, you know what? Another example in the Thor movies. They replaced Josh Dallas with Zachary Levi.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. We really got hung up on something we probably shouldn't have gotten hung up on. Oops. Look,
Thor Ragnarok. Okay, overall, let's wrap this up with Thor Ragnarok. Overall, what's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it's definitely one of the better Marvel movies. Some people have called it the best one yet, and I really don't agree with that.
Nah.
But it's pretty strong.
Good end to the trilogy. Strong movie. Like you said, to me, it's one of the better recent Marvel movies. But overall, no, not one of the best. Not the best ever. No way.
It was definitely memorable.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, definitely. I'll definitely give it credit. It was a very memorable, exciting, enthralling movie that, to me, could have benefited from 20 to 30 extra minutes.
Mm-hmm. Oh, something just for comic fans. I'm just going to throw in red at the end here. Predicting it now. Hela is going to take the place of Lady Death if they adapt the Infinity Gauntlet storyline for Avengers 3.
Yeah.
Just going to throw that out there. don't want to get too in deep with it because we're already going really long and we got to wrap this up. But
Yeah. A lot of swords.
Well, we talked about 3 things we could just talk for hours about. This was gonna happen.
Yeah.
Thank you for everyone who's staying with us. Sorry it ended up going a little long, but yeah. Any last remarks you want to throw in?
No, just saying. Yeah, Tessa Thompson, hit me up.
Yep. As long as you're polite about it, it's fine.
It's fine. There you go. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah. On that note, James, thank you for joining me today.